I'm talking with Calvin Anderson, Vice President of Managed Services at Duetto. Calvin, thank you so much for flying out from New York to speak with us at last month's luncheon.
Yeah, it was really fun to speak to the lively audience, Jeremiah.
Great. And one of our HSMAI members told me that a big takeaway from your presentation for her was that she had to get more serious about accurate data segmentation. Could you give us a few bullet points on why that's more important than ever?
Absolutely. Right now, we're living in a world where the cost of distribution and the cost of customer acquisition is rising substantially. And as we talked about in the meeting, it's rising much higher than it is for airline or car rental clients who really have an expensive cost of distribution. And so it's very important that we manage that database and that group of people that we already do have and begin to acquire appropriately. And so a huge piece of managing that group is understanding their behaviors, understanding what kind of deals they want, when they want to travel, when they travel, what they like to buy, and therefore be able to price and strategize and market to them appropriately. And the only way you can really do that is having accurate data about that customer. And so organizations oftentimes label the value, lifetime value of their customers. And, 10 years ago, those values were $75 or $85, and now they're hundreds and hundreds of dollars in many cases. And so oftentimes when we have that guest right in front of us, whether when they're booking a reservation or at our front desk, we don't treat them like this is a $5,000 customer for our client. We treat them like, please go to your room really quickly and let's move things on. And so accurate, correct data about that customer is how you get them to be repeat customers and to come back and enjoy their stay versus a situation where perhaps all you have is their email and know nothing about them. Over-targeting them makes it so that they put you on the block list for their spam, and you never hear them, and you can lose that customer. So it's all about understanding the customers and understanding them and using them correctly, and you can't do that without the data.
So the data is just a huge eye-opener for the hotel.
It's where you build those strategies.
And the current discussion on the emergence of the bleisure traveler is really just a part of a larger conversation on this segmentation because we're finding that consumer behavior just doesn't fit into the traditional categories anymore. Now, you made a big point on using visualizing software to get a better grasp on this fragmentation in your forecasting. Why is that? And do you have any before and after stories that show the advantage in this approach?
Absolutely. Let me start by telling you kind of a story and how I came to be in a place where I'm heavily using visualization. It really started with me needing to understand my customer and behavior because it was very difficult to validate the strategies I was putting in place and really understand if they were successful for the reasons I thought. So what happened, and I'm sure this has happened to almost everyone that's listening, is we are seeing a huge short-term booking window that is shortening our standard booking window and a lot of churn and cancellation in the short term. And so kind of the general rhetoric that a lot of people talk about regarding the situation is that we have a lot of people that are trading down and canceling and rebooking to find a better deal. Oftentimes in a market where rates dynamically price down into day of arrival, you'll hear, let's not train the customer to find a better deal and research. And so oftentimes the assumption was that we have the same client and we're just trading down as we lower our rate, and it's a market problem. And it's something that if all revenue managers would stop doing, that we would fix the situation. I don't totally believe that's the situation. And so in order to find out what really was going on and what could be helped and what couldn't by my revenue strategies, I decided to painfully dig through customer behavior of several series of dates where we had heavy wash and cancellation, which means I was tying individual reservation numbers to each other, looking for names in rebookings that were the same to try to connect them and understand how that was happening. And I was also tying reservations to inner brand databases to find out if we really are seeing simply trade down. It's all people that were willing to pay higher prices at one point and now are just saving themselves a couple bucks as the market drops rate. And while we did see some of that in place, what we also found in painfully doing that was that a lot of these customers are brand new customers out of the blue, and they only show up when the rates drop really low. And so the takeaway from that situation, what I found was that we really are dealing with a new customer base to some degree, which is that when rates become really palatable, people are inspired and incrementally book on trips that they weren't going to do in the first place. And so one thing that I told the brand and my leadership in our situation is, yes, let's look for a way to avoid heavy cancellations, but let's also understand that we have a customer base here that books short-term and books incrementally based on the value of the product being offered, and let's try to pursue these people with our own strategies internally as well. And I think that's something that this is traditionally the case, but online travel agencies or app-based companies like Hotel Tonight are pursuing this very guest in the first place. And that's a client that I think a lot of our hotels and our brands need to be able to strategize and target individually, not just assuming they're all guests who are traded down. And so now with that visualization and a whole bunch of ways to see exactly how my customers are booking, I can immediately determine, is my price drop and the rebookings at those lower rates, is that related to my price drop, or is this a new client? And I don't have to spend 2 hours digging through an Excel worksheet. I can understand that situation in 5 seconds, and that helps me react in my strategy much more quickly, which is, do I need to raise prices up and just hold and watch the wash happen that is unavoidable, or should I be targeting a last-term strategy through a private, secluded channel?
And people say that you're a very visual person. What do you take from that?
Interesting that you mentioned that. I often am presenting the data visualizers, and once someone said, you know, Calvin, I can see that you're a very visual person, you know, but what about the people that just want to see it in Excel? And I don't think it was meant to be a bit of a dig, but I think to some degree the comment was, you know, I'm a visual learner, and I have to say I've always kind of grown up thinking the visual learner is sort of the dumb learner. And my response was, it's not that I can't read an Excel document. It's that if I gave you the same data in an Excel document and I had it in visualization, I'm going to find, spot, and action trends 10 times faster than you will be able to do that. And the reason it's important to be able to move at that pace and speed is every director of revenue, every director of sales, every director of marketing knows there's never enough hours a day to get your job done. And the bumper sticker that my team leads their jobs on is, what am I doing right now that actually helps us make more money? How am I actioning our strategy? And so that's the things we should be focusing our time on, and if we're able to be much more efficient and much more quick and action strategies based on data and trends versus gut, we're likely to be far more effective and able to pivot and turn our direction much more quickly as well when it's necessary.
It really shows you the importance of taking the scientific approach, you know, not just following the hunch or the trend, but actually digging into the data and finding it, but then also using growth hacking and using something that once you find these conclusions, they can be actionable. Excellent. And you said that more often these days, revenue management and digital marketing is sitting in the same chair. I attended the Rocket training in LA a few months ago, and they echoed the same idea, basically outlining a world that's different. You know, the world before was based on compression, and then they're outlining a world that was driven more by distribution based on price and strategies. They called this third generation of revenue management. They called it director of demand generation. What's your point of view? I mean, what are the differences between these two worldviews?
Absolutely. It's a great point, and anyone who wants to have more than 3 years left in their revenue management career should be deeply attuned to this. So I absolutely feel that they are almost one and the same, should be sitting in the same chair or the same office and be absolutely streamlining their process, and have been saying it for years. And the reason is that revenue management and digital marketing have both changed dramatically. Old school revenue management was purely pricing and yielding. Old school digital marketing, or shall I say marketing, was mostly putting color palettes together with cool catchphrases. Now, all of our digital marketing and all of our revenue strategy comes under one hood, which is really distribution and channel strategy, which is leveraging all of your directions and all of the guests you're targeting and how you're basically, it's the term I suppose is demand generation, as you said, which is that you're not just responsible for yielding the water that comes in, if you were to attribute money to water and guests to water, like a dam, pushes and compresses. You are responsible for making sure that your hotel fills completely to the top for the most possible. And those entities run together, and the most obvious way that you can see that is, when is the last time you've seen an advertisement where the ability to purchase is not part and parcel to the advertisement itself? And so any hotel strategy is, the notion that a house divided against itself will fall. And so all the data research, all the trends, and all of the analytics behind the decisions should be based in the same place, whether through marketing or pricing or yielding or channel management. And if both parties are not both running together in the same place, there's going to be a huge problem. A great example is that oftentimes we're not able to just put one price out there and hope everybody likes our best rate guarantee. People like to see value when they book. One of the biggest marketing mistakes of our time was when JCPenney said, we're going to stop sending coupons out to everybody. We are going to just offer a great T-shirt for a great price. And they said that people should appreciate that. And, the reality was their sales plummeted once they just said, here are the solid value prices we offer, because nobody felt like they were buying a value. People relate value to a deal, and so people want to buy a $50 T-shirt for $20, not a $20 T-shirt for $20. And so when it comes to revenue strategy, we're in a world now where we're often required to leverage one price against another or one channel versus another. Oftentimes, I'm telling my team, look at who's booking and let's target them. And the channels that are not booking, those are the channels we can basically use to show value to the channel that's actually moving. And that's part of my revenue strategy in most cases. And if marketing is not aware of what's booking or is aware of something that I don't know, then we're going to be targeting and leveraging our channels and prices in disjuncture with one another, rather in a streamlined, value-driven direction that really maximizes the place where people are and where they're booking and how.
And you also talked about how, from the consumer's point of view, the price and the offer are always the same, so why should they be different from the back office, right?
Correct. You're never going to land your value and your price in a really optimized position if you've got different people putting different prices out there, which is to say marketing can't put out a value or a deal if they don't have the rates for it, correct? Just like revenue management can't get in front of the client in the right way with the price if they don't have the marketing arm. So they have to connect, and the more they're aligned in mindset, the more value you're going to see out of that. And kind of the dum-dum-dum, the mic drop in all of this is that it's simply a world of supply and demand, which is to say if your competitors align in marketing strategy and revenue strategy, their ROIs are going to be much higher than the people who don't operate out of that system. And how our industry works is that ownership is going to start to see who is winning and who's losing. And if you consistently lose, you're going to be out of a job. And so I urgently am telling people in revenue, in marketing, and sales, if you are not aligning, which is that salespeople and marketing people need to be learning analytics. And in the same regard, revenue people need to be learning how they can function within the digital marketing world. So at worst, they're collaborating together. And at best, and in many cases, they're all the same hood, same team, under the same direction completely.
I've just been speaking with Calvin Anderson, Vice President of Managed Services at Duetto. Calvin, thank you so much for bringing this enlightening and urgent message to the San Diego community. I know that everybody really appreciates it.
Great talking to you.